Hey everyone, Star Wars Tales of the Jedi is out, and wow, was that amazing. Great visuals, storytelling, and new views on beloved characters handled masterfully, of course, by Dave Filoni. Tales, or TOTJ, was very well paced, and the short durations of each episode helped elevate each story and the tales they were telling, in my opinion. Episode 1, Life and Death, was a great start to the season, as it gives us another planet to explore and learn about, with a culture that is both visually and spiritually intriguing. Not only do I enjoy seeing new environments and exploring more homeworlds of such beloved characters, but I also enjoy seeing alien creatures acting as any regular animal would in our world. I like these dog creatures, and the giant tiger was a nice addition to the wildlife of Star Wars. Such a great way to show how in tune with the Force Ahsoka was, especially from infancy. Really great start to Tales. Episode 2, Justice, is one of the episodes I was most looking forward to, as the relationship between Dooku and Qui-Gon Jinn has always been so interesting and relatively unexplored in canon up till now. Not only do we see how they were equally as important to each other as they grew together, not just as master and student, but also as people, possibly as a father and son in a way. It was cool to see how Dooku embodies power, order, and elegance when conducting his Jedi duties. We also get insight as how their mindset has always been about saving and serving the people of the galaxy over what the politicians needed from them. As the episode plays out, we see more into Dooku's mentality and morality, as he is true to the Force and simply wants to do anything he can to maintain peace, order, and tranquility, even if he has to do so aggressively, as we see him attempt with the Senator before Qui-Gon stops him. On a side note, I didn't intend to use this image, but it just happened to be the thing I saw on screen when I had paused it for a brief moment. I apologize, but the Senator's face is unintendedly funny in the shot. Back to the episode. Seeing Qui-Gon spawn with Dooku, he has the same morality as his master, and knows when to prevent him from going too far, adding a great layer to the relationship. As they both know, they complement one another. Dooku acknowledges this, as he has a similar conversation with Qui-Gon as he did with Obi-Wan, about how much the student has grown, not just as a Padawan, but as a person, followed by the student thanking the master for teaching them, not only in their practices, but in life as well. Episode 3, Choices, changes up the dynamic, as here we see the by-the-books Windu in an older Dooku who is already having feelings and thoughts of disapproval over the Jedi Order, gradually moving from being protectors of the people to being the special police of the Senate. This experience on Raxus shows how Dooku is witnessing the corruptions within the Republic he's serving, as the systems are failing the people it's meant to protect, as he knows the Jedi should be doing something about it, regardless of what the Senate says, but unfortunately, they aren't. This episode's conclusion has Dooku settled in knowing that if the Jedi Order won't do a thing to change, then he would have to be the one to do so. Episode 4, The Sith Lord, was one of my favorite episodes, as it follows Dooku throughout the events of The Phantom Menace, and finally shows us an animated version of his departure from the Jedi Order, and start his allegiance with Palpatine as a Sith Lord. It was really cool to see more of the Jedi Library, the archives, and other details such as Dooku erasing Kamino from the archives, and more of what he was going through up to the Phantom Menace's conclusion, as we'll see more next. The scene between Dooku and Qui-Gon was quite a powerful moment, as they continued to share the same bond as they always have, no matter how much time has passed since they last spoke to each other. Their care for one another is truly heartbreaking, as this will be the last time they see each other before Qui-Gon meets his end at the hands of Darth Maul. It is crazy to know that they did see each other before his death, as prior to this, I always assumed Dooku hadn't seen him in years before this. Dooku expressing his sorrow to Yaddle was a great moment too, with a shadow of dread, as the storytelling makes it very clear that something ominous is about to happen. Sure enough, Dooku meets with Palpatine, rightfully furious over Qui-Gon's death, but what is also tragic is Yaddle thinking this would be a good idea to follow Dooku, not knowing what she was just about to walk into. That being a reluctant Dooku has no choice but to end her for witnessing his meeting with Palpatine. Dooku now will do anything necessary to achieve his goal of trying to make a difference within this corrupt galaxy. The moments of Yaddle trying to reach out to Dooku and trying to comfort him by looking past his allegiance to Palpatine, still trying to help him any way she could, knowing it would have fallen on deaf ears. Even though she tried her best, there was no stopping what was about to happen. The duel between the two masters had begun, and what a duel it was. But geez, what a finish! Like I verbally reacted, which I'm sure everyone did, when Dooku drops the door on her thinking she died from that. Like, wow, what a different way to go out for Yaddle as she did in Legends. To everyone's surprise, however, she survived the squish and lifted the door to get out from underneath in a powerful moment of using the Force. But unfortunately for her, she meets her end at the hands of Dooku's blade, pleasing his new master, Darth Sidious. Episode 5, Practice Makes Perfect, is a message to live by. It's great to be back in the Clone Wars era and see our favorite main characters and others such as Tera Sinube and Plo Koon. It was a nice surprise to see the appearance of a young Kanan Jarrus when he was still Jedi Padawan Caleb Dume and his master Deepa Palapa. A cool new change is Ahsoka's alternate Padawan design, as well as the tweaks to Anakin and Obi-Wan's appearances in this episode. Our main trio's designs are slightly altered to show the time in which these events take place, but they're also confusing as Obi-Wan has his mullet hair from episode 2 here when he had his short hair when he first meets Ahsoka in the Clone Wars movie, not to forget Anakin's short hair too. But perhaps I've got my timeline mixed up. Still cool to see though. Back to the story, we follow Anakin taking Ahsoka away from the temple to conduct his version of the training exercise, which although is a lot tougher than the previous one, has far more meaning than Ahsoka understands now in this moment. Anakin's words of wanting Ahsoka to be able to defend herself against anything shows just how much he cares for her and her safety. And of course, naturally, we know that this training amounts to something important later down the line. The scene lives up to the title Practice Makes Perfect as we jump ahead to later in the Clone Wars where we see Ahsoka continuing to go through the same exercise, but it's clear to the viewers that she is improving, yet continues to push herself to perfection. Anakin watches her as he knows this will have a significant impact on her life, as we all know very well. During the execution of Order 66, we know that Ahsoka had been inadvertently training to fend herself off from the clones and survive that fateful day. The final episode of the season, Resolve, hits us all in the feels, as we all now know that Ahsoka was at Padme's funeral. In between the finale of Clone Wars and this moment in time, she has found out what had happened during the conclusion of Revenge of the Sith, most likely from Bail Organa. But how could she not go to the funeral? Because she not only has to mourn the loss of her master Anakin, but also the loss of one of her closest friends, too. The story then transitions to her life post Order 66, as she is living and working in a small village with a pair of siblings, one that is thoughtful of her people, and her brother who is pro-Empire despite the poor living conditions of the village. They both find out that Ahsoka is a Jedi, after saving the sister using the Force, so the brother alerts the Empire in hopes to be rewarded for doing so. Little did he know, he would be rewarded with the visit from a really cool and intimidating Imperial Inquisitor, who could have very much be confirmed as the sixth brother, but as far as I know, has not been named yet. He is assumed to be the sixth brother, as that's the Inquisitor Ahsoka fought in her novel of the same name, which he looked very different in. Regardless of who he is or how much he's changed since the Ahsoka novel, she fights him single-handedly with nothing but her skills in combat and her trust in the Force. But I've got to say, her beating him so swiftly and elegantly is exactly how Ahsoka would handle the situation. The fight was so cool, and it didn't bother me how quick the duel was, not only because of how great and wise of a fighter Ahsoka is, but at the end of the day, that's what a duel is. A quick win or lose fight to the death. And that wraps up Season 1 of Tales of the Jedi. Overall, very great season. This is what Star Wars is all about. Hopefully we get a second season, but knowing that it's a very big moneymaker for Disney, And it's Dave Filoni. I'm sure we'll get it when we can. But what do you think? Talk about it in the comment section below. Hope you all have a great day, and see you next time. Yo!